Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Moving the Magnets for the Collingwood versus Carlton game. That is right around the corner. We face them tomorrow night. For those who haven't been a part of Moving the Magnets before, we will basically have a yarn, talk about some brief news that's revolving around the Collingwood helm at the moment. And at 6:20, we will have the release of the teams, while simultaneously I'll be anxiously refreshing Twitter just in case something comes out before the team news are announced. So that's what we're looking to do today. I thought it'd start a little bit earlier. I was just sitting in the office after work. I figured, you know what, let's just go live now. No point just scrolling on my phone or doing anything else really. So let's get into it. I welcome those who are already in the chat. Steve-O, sup champs, after tomorrow night, Blues will be heading to their psychologist this week. Ha ha ha. Up the pies. Steve-O is the Collingwood encyclopedia, this man, this guy. If you have a question, anything regarding Collingwood, don't come to me. Go to Steve-O Sana 3922 in the chat. He's been a long time contributor to the channel. But yes, hopefully we send them into a Blues misery after tomorrow. 0-3, 0-4 looks very ominous, I have to say. And I just don't think they can do what a Brisbane or Collingwood, what they're capable of. Now, also, I have invested, I've upped the internet at my house. We've upgraded to 1,000 megabytes download speed, and we've increased the upload speed. So for those who don't really care, the point of that is to ensure that the stream doesn't really freeze or make robot sounds from time to time. You know, right now you're hearing Anthony, but sometimes you might hear robot Anthony, and I don't want that. I want the highest quality possible. So for those who do stick around for the majority of the stream, just let me know, like, are there any freezes when you are watching this video? And maybe let me know, like, I'm not the only person who notices the freezes, right? You guys do see my face freeze, and sometimes I go, that wasn't a freeze, just so you know. That was just me demonstrating what happens. I'll freeze, and then there's like talking happening even though my mouth isn't moving, because the actual image of the face has frozen itself. So, by the way, as we're working our way into, if anybody wants to jump on and have a yarn, feel free. Let's get some people in. If anybody wants to do like a little mini fan cam session leading into the Moving the Magnets, we can talk about the teams, who you like to see in the squad, what you want from tomorrow. Jump in. Let's have a chat. Let's do that. But while we get that going, I'm going to take us through an article that was released just today, actually quite recently at 2:50, from the Herald Sun, where Mick McGuan and Glenn McFarlane had an exclusive interview with Craig McCrae. So let's get through it. So they talk about Braden Maynard, they talk about the teams, they talk about the age profile of the squad, as all journos do. But you know, you got someone like Mick McGuan who's asking, you'd like to think, well put together questions, being a coach himself and an ex-footballer. So firstly, as we should as well, Craig McCrae honours the Peter Mac Cup and talks about how, thankfully, Anthony Rocca is now in remission, Pebbles. So that's good to hear. So the first question is from Mick McGuan. He says, Darcy Cameron is a bit underestimated. How important has he been? McCrae refers to Grundy, saying, sometimes you got to make business decisions, and it opens up the roof to let Darcy Cameron grow. We believe in Darcy. I think he believes in himself more than ever. He is such an infectious character. Every locker room has one. He makes everyone smile. He has really sticky hands right now, and he's playing as good as he has ever played. Now, that couldn't be any more true, that statement itself. Let's have a look at how Darcy Cameron is going in 2025 when it comes to the stats. We know he's an intercepting beast and had that match-saving intercept mark against Footscray. So he's got quite a skill set for a ruckman. He's 30 years old now. He's 31, or he's 30 at the end of this year. He's averaging 18.3 disposals, what else is he doing? He's averaging 14 contested possessions. Those are monster numbers right there within itself. 4.3 intercept possessions a game. And what are his intercept marks looking like? 75% spent time in the midfield as a ruckman, and still averaging 2 intercept marks per game, which is right about where he sat for the majority of last year. Hasn't put a score on the board just yet. However, I'm sure we'll see that at some point. He always finds himself sort of sliding into the forward line and taking a nice little mark and giving us some presence in the forward line, but obviously isn't as necessary as it was, say, this time last year when we were really depleted in our key forward stocks. We really depended on players like Darcy Cameron and Mason Cox to come in and assist us with that role. So Mick McGuire then speaks about the ruck battle between TDK and DC. Craig says they're different players. The Koning's contest-to-contest stuff and energy around the ball is great. He is an elite midfielder. And I like the position he put him in. He cornered TDK into, because watching TDK, he's a ruckman. But I tell you what, his distribution going inside 50 is better than most of the midfielders Carlton have on their list right now. TDK maybe had 2 or 3 spot ups to Brody Kemp against Footscray. And I was like, you close your eyes, or you don't look at the height of TDK and you see that kick going in, you go, wow, good kick from a midfielder, but it's actually a ruckman, a very, very capable ruckman. And he's going to be a very, very scary predicament for the Pies tomorrow. And we don't ask Darcy Cameron to beat him. We just ask Darcy Cameron to play his role and have his own little moments. Sometimes you don't need to have the game. You just got to win those moments. And we know Fly loves that cliche within itself. Okay, so when asked about Brayden Maynard, he says, how hard, or he, as in Glenn McFarlane, asks, how hard will you fight to keep Brayden Maynard? Craig McCrae says, we're not in a hurry to get rid of Bruz. Ultimately, free agency is there for a reason. It allows players to explore options. Bruzzy is much loved, and I tell him daily. Glenn asks, do you sit down and say, here's what we can do for you? Fly responds by saying, I'm not in a role to forecast that. We have list management, and Justin Lepich is driving that. But I assure him every day, Bruzzy, you know how much we love you. He has a big decision to make, and that's what free agency offers. Glenn also asks, are you comfortable with North Melbourne publicly expressing their interest in him? And Craig says, yes, this is the game. We want to be active in this market. And if we're going to be active, you have to expect it to come the other way. Look, it's just the way sport is trending in Australia at the moment, specifically AFL, of course, is the fact that players, agents, clubs are always looking at hypotheticals down the line. It would be ignorant to not consider what is in the future, which is why there's so much news generating around player movements, is because you've got one hand on the present and one hand on the future. So what else does he ask? Mick McGuire asks, are you confident you will keep Brayden? Fly says, my heart says yes, but we are living in a business world. I don't think they are in a hurry to make a decision. I just think we're at a stalemate in the negotiations. We're sort of caught in between. We found out yesterday that the Pies are offering a 4-year contract. North are offering 6. Bruzzy wants 5 to stay at Collingwood. Maybe this is something that's already spoken about, but we don't know because it's internal negotiations. I'm wondering if Collingwood offered a player option where in his 4th year, if he hits us X amount of games or is an All-Australian or wins the Copeland Trophy or finishes top 5, he gets that trigger clause, the player option to extend it into the 5th year. But then again, does Brayden Maynard want the ultimate job security, and he doesn't want it to be performance-based. He wants it to be a 5-year contract, black and white. Or otherwise, he'll go to North Melbourne, who are offering a 6-year contract, blue and white. So, yeah, I feel like that's where it's at the moment. And because when we're still not anywhere near that time where the decision needs to be made, I don't think anyone is willing to call someone's bluff just yet. Glenn McFarlane asked, you said last year you would prefer players over picks. Does that still stand? Craig responds saying, there is some context around that. I think you know me well enough. I'm a growth mindset guy. If you ever think I'm fixed on one thing, you know that's not real. At that time, we wanted players over picks for players who we were in negotiations with, but we are going to need picks sometimes. I think Fly almost shot himself in the foot with that statement last year, and he didn't really revisit that statement throughout that period. He sort of just, I'm sure he just wasn't bothered. He knew it was this media spin, but even as fans, it was a pretty blunt statement, so you can only read into it so much. And to us, it seemed like, yeah, we just want players, but what it sounded like was we were going for specific players in that age, in that period, and we just weren't looking for picks at that period, during that course of time. Regarding Pendlebury being the sub, Mick McGuan says Pendles and Steele are iconic figures. That defensive cover midfield role is so important. The way you set up the ground. Who is the next midfielder who could play that role? Fly answers, people see age and speed on the game, but Pendles plays an integral role. He is hard to replace in that role because he is so clever. We are now even talking about playing Pendles in a slightly different role so we can get someone to one day replace him in the role. We've been doing it subtly. It is a unique role if you watch the way we play, but Ned Long is showing some great signs. Harry Perriman was one trialed there in preseason. Geordie De Goey can play a role like that too. I would have loved Fly to have extended into that context there as to what the role is, but I'm sure he doesn't want to give away to any opposition reading into this about what Pendle's specific role is at the moment. It's being at the game tomorrow. I'll put a special focus on just seeing how Pendles is positioning himself at centre bounce. What is he doing when the ball's in motion? And see if I notice any tangible differences. But for now, I can't say I've noticed that. He suggested Ned Long is showing some great signs to fulfill that role in the future in a Ned Long way, not a Pendles way. Like, they're two completely different players, let's be honest. Harry Perriman was one we trialled there in pre-season, and Geordie De Goey can play a role like that too. Perriman was basically a out-and-out midfielder for the entirety of the pre-season. It's not something that's really come to fruition just yet. But similar to, like, if we learn anything about Lockie Schultz coming over, I think we just got to be patient with players that are being inducted into the club and the fixtures that they're a part of in this year. So we'll give that time and see where I'm not going to jump at any conclusions regarding Perryman, whether he's worth it and all those things that are going to come with the criticism if he's not performing. Mick asks, so is that a reason why Pendles was a sub against Port Adelaide? Craig says, we had a talk at the start of the year. I was determined to sub Pendles in round 0. That was my plan. Pendles said, what about this? And it just made a lot more sense to be the second game. I said to him, if we are lucky enough to get past August, Scott Pendlebury is going to be a weapon. We want to give him every chance to do that. So he probably, in response to that question, the short answer is no. The plan for Pendles is to get him to the final series at maximum performance and maximum health, as whatever that means in a full arduous year of AFL footy. But yeah, he's suggesting we're using him as a sub to get him to the finish line at the end of the year. So that seems like why he's being used in that manner. Glenn asks, would you like to see Pendles break Brent Harvey's game record? McCrae says, I don't know what the record is. Glenn says it's 4:32. Pendlebury has played 4:06. Craig says, I don't want to create a headline because I don't know. I won't forecast too far. I've really got Pendles in my head from a moment to moment, week to week thing. We have a great relationship and speaking very clearly about what is needed for the team. For him, he's a selfless guy. Talking about the recruits, Glenn asks, we can see from outside what Dan Houston has brought to the on-field mix. Internally, how is he fitted in? Craig says, you can see them in other colours and you see what they do. Then you see them in your own colours and quickly fall in love with them. He can take intercept marks. He can gather at ground level. Then he can execute it. These are rare finds. That's why you push hard at free agency to get players like him. And this is something we're learning to love about Dan Houston is all the hype was around his ball use. But I think we're sticking around for Dan Houston because of his defensive acumen as well. And to be harsh, or real with you, John Noble didn't have both sides to that in his game. He was more of an offensive weapon, and even then, he wasn't elite. So I think what we got out of that trade in the end, we certainly come out of that trade with overs. And I think, if you take off your black and white glasses, you can admit and accept that. Mick McGuan says Harry Perriman has been a bit unheralded, but based on the role play and the in-game necessity. Craig says his contest-to-contest work stood out. Then you get him into the games and he has 12 tackles and adds a different value. Things we've been missing a bit. I thought the fans would fall in love with him pretty quickly because he would do just about anything that the team needs. He did things against the Dogs a few weeks ago that were unseen. He goes back straight away and he plays a role and saves goals. There was about 10 seconds to go and he spoils the ball that maybe gets marked. Internally, he's fast becoming much loved. Mick asks, I've been watching the selfless work of Tim Membry and what he does around Myercheck and McStay. They've hardly played together, so they look to have a huge upside. Fly says he gets the game. He gets what's needed as a coach. How good is it to have players who just say, whatever you need, I'll be the man. I'll start on the bench, whatever it is. He's a selfless man. He's a great family man, always smiling. It's a long year, but the chemistry will grow. Now, Reef and Ed. Mick says, Reef McInnes went from an inside mid to a pointy end of the ground forward. Then he went back to fill the Nathan Murphy role. How did you feel when he injured his knee? Craig says it's tough. You see the work they've gone into and the energy that they get from this opportunity. The fact that he was fighting for a contract at the end of last year. He has a story. Sometimes at given points of that story, there are sad chapters. So we live in that and care and love. He's getting an operation next week. You quickly go into solution mode. We put a contract to Reef to show we wanted him as a part of our future. And, 2 years. Would have I put forth a 2-year deal? Probably not. I was thinking a 1-year deal or maybe you just rookie him, but I'm not the coach. Craig has a better idea than I do, obviously. So I'm not going to fight that. This is a good question. Glenn McFarlane says, will you take a ready-made defender in the mid-season draft? Craig says we are looking all the time. Reef is definitely out for the year. We have Harvey Harrison, who is not quite ruled out. However, he has had a setback. So it's going to be a challenge for him to play this year. That timeline is not quite finalized yet. So there was swelling in Harvey's knee, unfortunately, and apparently it was expected. But by the sounds of things, Craig is suggesting that that's not entirely the truth. So a little bit of transparency behind that injury update from yesterday. It's not all that it seems. Unfortunately, Harvey Harrison has suffered a genuine setback, but just be patient with him. He got his contract extension last year. Wrap him up in cotton wool, get him right. If it's not this year, get him right for next year. Mick asks, why was Ed Allen dropped after opening round? Craig said, I would have to show you the magnets, and I did this with Ed. It is not just Ed Allen out, Lockie Sullivan in. I don't read and see much, but I did hear that. I go down in the shops and I hear, why did you put Ed Allen out? I get it, but when you do the magnets, it makes sense. He plays a different role to Sullivan. And to answer, Ed Allen is part of our future. I tell him daily, weekly, we want you on the team. I told him 4 weeks out before round 0, hey, we want you to give you every opportunity to play, but there are little things in your game you need to tidy up. He's playing above the level at the VFL, and that's what we want to see. He's coming with us. So he's one of those players who falls into the same awkward position that Finlay McCrae has found himself at times. Too good for VFL, but not quite the AFL level. Just doesn't have that burst, doesn't have the service delivery just yet to his forwards. And I think that's what they want him to work on in the VFL if possible. Glenn McFarlane asks, are you confident with the young group underneath? Craig answers, this is the deepest depth we have had in my time. You could bring in Finn McCrae and he's not an 18-year-old guy trying to work it all out. We will be tested. It's a squad mentality. This is a journey and we'll be judged at the end. Some judge us from the start. Rebuilding Jordan De Goey. Jordan De Goey is a match winner, but watching him last year with no other evidence than my eyes, his power wasn't there with his high-end speed out of stoppage. With groins, you can lose that burst. Are you comfortable he can get back to being that 2023 powerful preliminary final player? Craig says, great observation. Pretty much for all of last year, he couldn't run at 100%. He was down to his lowest in the 70s at training, and we were still putting him out there. Then he got injured. It's a great lesson for us, and we decided to send De Goey overseas to Doha to get things right. It made a big shift in his body. He's now fortunately running at 100% capacity. The power is back, and we'd like to think that that will translate into his game and get that preliminary final form back. Mick asked, how important is that explosive midfielder like to go to complement the guile of Pendlebury and the creativity of Nick Dacos? Craig says, we need someone to win the ball, someone to get them on the outside, and someone who has a structured role in that, as well as the other versions of it. During times in games, we completely put a different mix in there because we need a different look on the game. Geordie is a powerful beast. His strengths are so huge. He's a connector and a score assist guy too. It's the perfect complement that De Goey provides to players like Nick Dacos and Pendlebury, and gives us flexibility. When you have superstars like that in your midfield, you can go with a rugged player like Ned Long to do the dirty work, Harry Perryman and Steel Sidebottom, of course. Talking about the Dacos boys, what does he say? That leads us to Nick Dacos. I played with his dad, Peter, and he has freakish ability. It didn't just happen. He worked on it. Craig asked, did Peter train at a high level? The decision-making that made people go, wow, did he do that at training? Mick says, Peter was undersold in terms of how hard he trained, but with his ball in hand, the decisions he made, he saw options that others couldn't. While the tagger coming back into vogue, could we see Matt Cottrell play on Nick this Thursday? Craig suggests that George Hewitt has gone to him a few times. I don't think Cottrell would play on a Nick Dacos. Anyways, Cottrell doesn't have probably the inside ability that Nick Dacos possesses. He wouldn't be able to overcome that. Matt Cottrell is an out-and-out winger, and sometimes that high half-forward role is what he fulfills for Carlton. Mick asked, do you look at the game and say you have so much faith in this guy that through his work rate, he will beat the tag? Or based on trends within the game, do you think I might have to move his magnets to try and get him to the ball? Craig McCrae answers, if you look at the GWS game, you go tag Nick and it worked. Well, Nick blew himself up. His GPS figures in the first half were ridiculous. He did more high-speed running in the first half than he has done in some games. So he knows he can run really well, and that challenged most opponents. I don't like to leave players out on an island, so if we feel like they are trying to take him out of the game, we will help Nick get in the game. We'll put him in positions where we think he's going to be hard to tackle, or where we can manipulate the game better. We have multiple ways of doing that. We saw him against North Melbourne go forward and dominate. He does have that string or that trick up his sleeve where he can play forward, he can play half back flank. I just think Nick Dacos is untaggable. I agree that there was an overreaction regarding Nick Dacos and the tag against GWS. He just outran himself in the end, and that doesn't ever happen. So that's that. That's pretty much that, isn't it? Let's get back to the comments. Oh, we got Andreas here. Hold on, guys. Sorry, Andreas. Give me 1 second, brother. I was just reading the article. 1 second, brother. I'll quickly check the chat. Will Coxie play? We'll get Andreas in from Black and White United, and maybe we can answer some comments together. Let me get myself a little bit higher up here because Nick Dacos and Scott Pendlebury are towering me behind. Give me 1 moment. Let's do this. Let's do that. Yasul File.
What's happening, brother? How are you?
Good, man. How have you been?
Living the dream, bro. Another day, another cent in the bank, which is good. What about yourself?
Yeah, same old. Just looking forward to the game, man. Are you going to the game? Pink Lemonade into the game?
Pink Lemonade into the game. Got to work tomorrow. I'll probably finish at about 1. Haven't got a busy day, which is good. And then head straight in. What time are the teams being announced? Because it's a Wednesday night. What time
it'll be 6:20. Generally speaking, it's 6:20.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
No, that's good. What do you reckon? What are your honest thoughts about tomorrow? All right, fair enough.
I go in with a reservation and acknowledgement that Carlton, they're still a very competitive side, and if we don't bring the heat, their tackling pressure has been immense. So I think we just need to come in with the right mentality. If we don't, it could be trouble. What about you?
Well, I reckon it's going to go one of two ways, this game. Like it's just written in the stars for both teams. They're going to play that contested, punishing, hard style of football. But I just think on the breaks and the switching of play, we're just too quick for them. They're very slow. It's like watching slow motion football. You know what I mean? Like early 2000s hard hitting football, which is fine, but I don't know in the long run. At the start of the game, I've got a feeling they're going to come out and they're going to absolutely, try and smash us to pieces. But if we can stem that sort of and just absorb all their pressure, in the first quarter and a half, leading up until halftime, I think it's going to be a carbon copy of the Bulldogs game, where we're just going to be able then to spread, use the ball well, that manic pressure, the hand passing from defence, and then probably the key is with the delivery of us into our forward line, not the hit and hope sort of kick that they tend to do. Because the only time they look really dangerous is when they finally get a break and they hand pass it out and Saad's getting the ball and he's splitting open in the middle from the opposite side of where the ball was. That's where they look really dangerous, and that's what we're going to be careful of. If we can stop that kind of transition and those hand passes that they've got to get it out wide, their kicks have been kicking to nobody, right, in their forward line. So if we can stop that, it's that second and third hand pass from the center, from a stoppage, from a clearance or whatever. If we're able to stop that, there's no reason why we can't just run over them. I'm really confident. I'm never really confident against Carlton, but I am confident in this game that in the long run of the game, we should be able to overrun them. The only thing that I can see happening is they just wake up one morning, which is going to be tomorrow morning, and they're just going to fucking flex. They're just going to puff their chest, and they're going to turn into world beaters, right? And then it's going to be like we're playing against Hawthorn. And all of a sudden, they're playing a total different style of football because it's against us. And that's my fear. But realistically, over the long run, and the side that we've got, I don't see us losing this game. But I also don't see it being a blowout. Also, these games are just too close. So it's a weird one. And it's weird that these games come up at this time of the year now, where I was praying that they would have beaten the Bulldogs. It's great seeing them 0-3, but I was praying that they would get that win because they're going to come out for blood this game. You know what I mean? So, and for us, this game, we obviously lost the opening round. It went from 0 to 100 the week after against Port Adelaide, and then obviously we had a real battle against the Dogs a couple of weeks ago. So we've gone from one extreme to the other to a hard-fought game. This game is going to sort of position us on the ladder, and I think it'd be a true reflection what this result is of where we are so far this season. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man, you've nailed it on the head. You took all the words out of my mouth. I think it could be one of those games where Carlton make a statement. Although, you probably like to think as a Collingwood fan that's unlikely, but you just can't write that off. And if we can, like you said, you used the perfect word or the perfect term. You said if we can stem the bleeding in the initial phase of the game, we stop Patrick Cripps, Charlie Curnow, we cut his tail off. I think we're all right, but we've got to get through that first.
Yeah. It's about absorbing their pressure early on because they're going to hit us hard early on. And this is obviously going by their games that they've already played. Their 3 games that they've played, they've started off like a house on fire. Their first quarter and a half, so the first half of football has been great. It's been really hard contested footy. But if you watch when they score a goal and you see the camera footage on them, they're exhausted. They're tired. Everything is such a slog for them. And the way that we play is very fast, very moving. We're going to use the width of the ground, and they don't do that. They hate doing that. They just like getting the small, sort of easy hand passes out and trying to just hit Charlie at all times. So if Harry doesn't play, I think this works in our favour because it sort of frees up our defence a little bit in that sense. And if we need to make a change on Curnow, we can. We'll have those options. Kemp's the other only real danger. We need to understand also that every time Collingwood plays against Carlton, Matt Owies was always a danger small forward. And they don't have that this time, that they don't have that. There's a chance that Zach Williams all of a sudden, did his Achilles and now all of a sudden he may actually play this week, and really? He's a top player. Yeah, he's a top. That's what Voss said in his presser. He trained fully today. Blah blah blah. I'm thinking to myself, how? Because he's one of those duds that will play a 6-game streak of doing absolutely nothing and then wake up one morning and then play good against us, kick 4 or 5 against us, and then you won't see him again for the rest of the year. So it's just, it's one of those games where we just don't know, exactly what's going to happen. But I'm just quietly confident, but also very, very realistic of the fact that these games, very much like Anzac Day, It doesn't matter where we are on the ladder with them. We could be dead last and they could be on top and they would be shitting bricks. And it's not vice versa, but we're playing better form. I'm not saying I'm shitting bricks, but I'm very cautious of what they can do, you know? So the other thing I wanted to say quickly is what we're doing good this season. We didn't do it too much last season, but I'm finding that we're valuing. I'll use an analogy for you. I don't want to bore people, but think about like when you're at school, yeah, and you're playing with your mates, and you've got a tennis ball, and you're throwing it around, and then a bully comes along, and a bully grabs the tennis ball, and then they throw it to their mates, and then you're concentrating on trying to get that ball back off the bully, right? Now, put yourself in the bully's shoes, yeah. When you've got the ball and you're the bully and you're passing it to your mates, what are you doing? You're thinking about your next move, right? You're thinking about where you're going next. There's people coming at you. We are very good so far at this season. We did it for a half against GWS. We did it for all the Port Adelaide game, and we did it where it mattered the most against the Dogs. We are valuing the possession of the footy a lot more than what we were last season. We've got the ball. We're transitioning. We're moving across. We're going quick. If we play a team like the Dogs, like the Dogs did, we play a team like Carlton, they're going to slow us down, and we have to always worry about what our next move is. And that's why if we use the wings, if we use the transition play, the manic pressure in the forward line, I don't see us losing this game, but we don't want to get sucked into their level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, last year, you probably recall, like we hardly possessed the ball. The ball was moved easily against us. And for us to make a real tilt towards the back end of the year, we have to be able to hold that. Carlton against Footscray, like they're just a team playing in periods of the game. And we know footy is a 4-quarter game. Like in the first half, looking at the stats, Andreas, Carlton had probably 5 or 6 goals from the defensive half, through Sard and Williams. But in the second half, they absolutely fell on their asses and just weren't ever able to back it up. Yeah.
Well, they did that against Richmond as well. And to be honest with you, people give Richmond credit for their game against Carlton, and rightly so. But I think it was more or less Carlton just switched off. And it didn't matter who they played against because the opposition that they played against, they're still AFL level. Those kids that played at Richmond, they're AFL quality kids. You know what I mean? And there was a reason why a lot of them were drafted so high, and they put the pressure back on them, and they crumbled. Now you're talking about you're flipping it over to the most experienced team that everyone's talking about, the oldest team, the most experienced team. If they show that slight bit of hesitancy, apprehension, if they second guess what they're doing, this is a game where we can seriously damage not just their team on the ground, but their entire club. And I don't want anything more than that. I don't want anything less than that. But at the same time, you've just got to be cautious. You're playing against them, and it's going to be interesting. I'm G'd up for this one because I think there's a real chance that we can damage a football club. And you know what? They're going into gather round. If we do get up, they're going into gather round 0-4, and they're playing against West Coast. Now, 2 of their last wins were against North Melbourne and West Coast, and that's 2 in the last 11. So the pressure then gets mounted on them even more. But anyway, that we're looking ahead too much there. But tomorrow night's going to be a good night. You going?
Now I'll be there, man. Are you an 80s Leventi?
Yes, I was born in the late 80s. Yes.
So do you have a genuine disdain towards Carlton? And 2, do you remember the 90s throughout the Carlton dominance?
Every single minute of it, bro. Every single minute of the 90s. They absolutely destroyed my childhood. Put it this way. I never saw Collingwood win a game against Carlton until Mick McGrawn's run in 94 because I wasn't going to the footy as that little sort of thing. I started going to the footy in 93. I went to a few games. I didn't go to Collingwood Carlton. Then I went 94. I went to the game when Mick McGuan did his massive run. But then the year after, Carlton won the flag. They only lost 2 games that year. And I don't actually. We didn't make the finals in '95, but we were a good. We weren't that bad of a team. We didn't do too well, but we still had a lot of premiership players from 1990. You know what I mean? And then throughout my whole childhood, I reckon it was 6 years, which would have been about 8 games against Carlton. I saw us lose and get absolutely smashed. I'm talking like they embarrassed us, you know? One of the most memorable moments was it was a couple of days before my papu died in 2000, and we played against Carlton at the MCG at the start of the season. And we had come off a wooden spoon in 99. Moldhouse had taken over. We went out the G, I think it was it could have been around 4, around 5. It was at the start of the season. Anyway, it was just before Anzac Day. We knocked them off at the G by 84 points, right? I can't tell you, I can, but at that stage of my life, having that win and not being at a Collingwood Carlton win and like since 1994, bro, I was walking out of there crying. Like, this is like one of the greatest wins we've ever had. And then I think in 2001, I can't remember exactly what happened then. Then 2002, it was Bucks' 200th or 250th, and they had all the salary cap drama, and we smashed them by 103 points at the G. That night, it was an August night. That night at the G, it was.
Like
I remember
you're
everything.
recalling it like it was your first date, Andreas.
Oh, mate, I'll tell you, there's so much. There's been so much downside when it comes to Carlton, but there's so much upside as well that we've had. And like my old man's been a Collingwood supporter since he was a baby, and he went to all the 70s, all the 80s, all the grand finals. And then I remember he texted me halfway through I was about halfway through the second quarter in 23 when Brisbane were playing Carlton in that prelim final. And he goes, "You don't want anything more than to beat Carlton in the grand final." He goes, "But you don't want to meet him in a grand final." And he'd seen 3 losses to him in a granny. And I think it was too much.
So that's the next demon to slay then, whenever that comes.
If that happens, I will retire and we win. I will retire from going to the footy and my life will be completed. Whatever happens after that, I don't care about it. But there's a genuine hate. This is a derby. If you want to put it into like the round ball terms, this is a derby. This is not even a derby. This is more. This is Barcelona, Real Madrid. This is Man United, Liverpool. This is Celtic, Rangers. This is, this is Carlton, Collingwood. It's in your blood, you know. And the part that pisses me off this is the part that pisses me off the most. These 2 clubs and this game, they divide families. They divide friendship groups. Group chats will be spinning out. Families are punching on. My cousin, who's like my brother, is a mad Carlton supporter. And he saw all the success when he was a kid. And he tried to get me over to him. No chance, man. Like, my dad would have killed me, yeah? If you're Greek, you got the same last name, you're a Collingwood supporter. That's it, right? And he wouldn't let me change, and I didn't. But my son, my older son, he's a Carlton supporter, and that hurts. But my other one's not going to be. But that's the type of thing. This is a true tribal, borderline religious rivalry between them, and that's why we could finish on the bottom of the ladder and not win a flag for 30 years. If we beat Carlton home and beat Carlton away, it's a successful season, right? That's realistically how I feel about it. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm tipping us, honestly. I reckon probably 21, 22 points. I reckon that's probably a safe option. I think they'll hit us hard. We'll come out. We'll stem the flow, absorb all their pressure, and then we'll move on and hold them off in the last. I don't see us doing what we did to Port Adelaide. I'd love it. I don't see it. But yeah, hopefully that gets your ratings up, mate, because I just G'd myself up now. I've got to take a breath.
Mate, I've got bloody goosebumps. Bloody hell. But hey, we got 5 minutes, Andreas, before the teams. Actually, give me 1 second. I was going to put my laptop on charge. Bear with me. Give me one.
Go, bro. Go. Hope everyone liked that. I can't see the comments, but that's how I feel.
So, all right. So we got 5 minutes, and there's nothing coming out on Twitter. There's no leaks, so to speak. Ins and outs. Let's start with Mason Cox. Out. Okay. Extend.
Yep.
What else have we got?
Mason Cox will come out. I think Frampton's taller than Reef, so Frampton's going to come in for Reef. If he does, I don't see us being able to play 6 talls like that. Although Mason probably doesn't deserve to get dropped after his game against the Dogs. I don't think he'll get picked.
Do you put Frampton in regardless of whether McCrae is made available or not?
Well, you sort of have to, because then, like, if you're going to have to put one of them as an emergency. Excuse me, Cox will go as an emergency. So then, are you waiting for them to drop their team first? Which I don't think you can. I don't think you could do. I think they're both going to come out at the same time. But you can have an extended bench, and then you can probably move the Magnets with that, and then see if he does. But if he's on the extended bench, I'd probably play it safe and have Frampton in regardless.
Yep. You could put him as an emergency and do like a Chris Scott and just like someone's out with a late illness sort of thing. That could happen potentially.
100%.
But
you could do that.
Frowned upon.
Yeah, I know. But at the end of the day, I mean, you could do it and then just like still have him on the bench and then already tell the players what's happening so they know, and then just keep everyone guessing. So they're guessing, and then an hour before the game, just make the announcement like they did with Pendles being sub that time. So yeah.
What about Ed Allen?
This is a game that he should be able to come in and absolutely dominate. But I think the way that Carlton play, right, suits the way that he plays and might actually drag us down to their level a little bit. I think he needs to get a little bit quicker, right? He's got the body. I think he needs to be a little bit faster. And I don't think the club is happy with his defensive efforts. I think there's a reason why he's not being picked. If he's as good as what everyone says he is, he needs to be playing. Now, I don't think he's going to be the next Finn McCrae. I don't think that's the case at all. But I do think that there's something wrong with his transition to the defence that may be keeping him out of the side. So if he gets picked, I reckon that might be a sub. Because then he can have a real good impact late and then crash them when they're down and out.
Interesting. Well, we'll find out in like less than 2 minutes, won't we?
Yeah.
It's the calm before the storm, isn't it? That's what it
is.
Yeah,
it is.
Call a spade, huh?
Yeah. Also, what's the weather going to be like? Because I'm looking at my jacket. I've got a fly jacket. And I'm looking at it, but I don't want to wear it tomorrow because even if it gets a bit cool, lately it gets a bit cool, but it's still like humid at the same time. What the fuck do you wear tomorrow, man?
Mate, just bring your game face. That's all I'm asking from you.
Oh, mate, I'm actually sitting on my own too. The boys got standing room seats. I said no. I'm going to sit on my own down the front. Yeah, I'm going to go old school. I'm going to go 80s. I'm going to put the transistor radio in my ear, listen to SEN while I'm thinking.
I might message you on. I need to give you my number because I've gone dark on Instagram recently. I'm trying to steer away from being in social media too much. So,
what did she do to you, bro? Did she break your heart or something?
What is there?
Did she break your heart or something?
I'm hiding, bro. I've done bad things. I've done bad things. Okay. So I'm in hiding at the moment. But no, can you message me on Instagram after this and give me your number, and I'll we'll go to one of those bars underground and have a drink before the game.
Oh yeah, we can go to there's that Hayden Bunton bar, whatever it is, on the members side or whatever. But wherever, I can get you in wherever you need. I've got passes to each side of the ground, so that's fine.
All right, done. We'll do that. All right, Andreas, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for the pump up, man. That was 1 of 1.
That was good. I enjoyed it. I'm actually going on the Carlton channel tonight, the Jumper Punch. I'm going on
Hopper.
there. We're doing a preview with
Time's
Paulo
that.
Sebastiani from SEN. We're going to pre-record it. We're going to do it at 9:00, and
Okay.
then they'll edit it and stuff and send it, and then I'll post it on my YouTube channel. Probably in the morning, first thing in the morning. They'll post it later tonight, but probably I enjoy it. I actually enjoy going on their stuff as well because they just fucking give it, and I just give it back, and they're enjoying it. So, which is nice. But yeah, I'll be on I'll be on that channel later tonight doing a preview with them. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm really keen to see who they pick, but I'll message you as soon as we get off and we can catch up. All right, man.
All right, Egane, thanks for your time, bro. Take care.
No worries. Have a good one. See everyone.
See you, bro. Bye. Andreas, the great man. That was really good. That was timeless. All right, let's do the teams are out. Let's share the screen. Here we go. Okay, so pretty simple in the end. Pretty straightforward. Billy Frampton, Brody Myercheck in. Reith McInnes out, obviously. Mason Cox, I believe, to be omitted, unfortunately. It doesn't say here whether he's been omitted or if injured or unwell. The notable absence from Carlton is Harry McCrae. Matthew Cottrell, who was tipped to potentially tag Nick Dacos, is not going to be available either. Jordan Boyd, who just came in. Francis Evans played a couple games, both omitted, it seems. So what do we see in the emergencies? Ed Allen's there. Will Hoskin-Elliott is there, as to is Mason Cox. And then, yeah, I think the obvious sub at this point in time will be Ned Long. It's pretty much like, really, barring Reith McInnes, it's sort of an unchanged team because Myercheck has been a mainstay in our team for so long and was a part of the best 23 going into the season. So unfortunate for Mason Cox, performed very well against Footscray, but as we all thought, he did well, but he had to have a superb game to keep Brody Myercheck out. And unfortunately, we're not going to go tall. I liked Andreas's point about this game being a really good opportunity for Ed Allen to potentially come in against the hard nut side. Ed Allen does offer that inside pressure. Unfortunately, he doesn't find a spot in the squad, but there's more to be seen throughout the course of the year for someone like Ed Allen. Any interesting positions here that are sort of unusual? It's all pretty stock standard. You got Jordan to go in a forward line. I think we'll see maybe 50-50 midfield split. We saw Geordie barely feature in the midfield against Footscray. He attended a couple of centre bounces. However, he did some good work in a forward line. Had he kicked a few of his shots on target, he would have had a much more prettier game on on paper. But I still think Jordan Agoa took a really positive step in the right direction. And now he's, I wouldn't say he's primed for the game against Carlton, but he's definitely working his way towards it. And I'm really excited to see Steele side bottom feature again in the midfield. They got Jack Crisp here, but I think he'll be on the wing or on the bench or in the forward line at some point. Will Hoskin-Elliott named as emergency. He played as a forward in the VFL, so we've got two forwards and a midfielder. So this is interesting. I suppose if there is a laid out like a Billy Frampton, like say hypothetically, Collingwood, as in will fly and the selection panel realize, okay, Mackay's not in. Maybe we tell Billy Frampton, I know this is frowned upon, but maybe they tell Frampton, hey mate, just come down with an illness or something and we'll bring in Will Hoskin-Elliott, because you look at Carlton's forward line, they're not that tall. Like you've got Jack Silvani, who played in, who's you'd be dumb to play him in the forward line after the game he had in the back line against Footscray. So really, the only tools they have going into tomorrow are Charlie Curnow and Brody Kemp. I would like to think Darcy Moore will do a job on Charlie Curnow. And then also, I would also like to think that Will Hoskin-Elliott would do a really good job. I think Will Hoskin-Elliott's a really good matchup for Brody Kemp. I think they're around the same size. They both have great aerial presence. Hoskin-Elliott's more experienced. Genuinely, hand on heart, guys, I don't know about you guys in the chat. I would genuinely bring in Will Hoskin-Elliott and drop Billy Frampton for this game if we're talking specifically for the matchups in this game. You know, it's a squad mentality Fly likes to refer to. So a squad mentality means, well, you're going to pick the best players for the right games, the right matchups. And that's what I think it is. I think Hoskin-Elliott's a great matchup for a Kemp, with Hoskin-Elliott being that Swiss Army knife. Will it happen? I don't think so. But yeah, we'll see. T Mello says Frampton kept Curnow goalless last time. Well, Frampton played mainly on McCrae last time and played exceptionally well. However, McCrae is not there, which is why I'm sort of pointing to the option of maybe making a really late change before the game. And I think Billy Frampton would feel pretty hard done by if he's, you know, to be named and then to be subsequently dropped 24 hours later for Will Hoskin-Elliott. He would understand given McKay's not available. But I think if Fly's clearly, if he doesn't take him out, he's thinking, all right, well, we want Billy Frampton in there for the long haul. We want him in for the season for the other teams that possess an abundance of key tools in their forward line. I can see that, and that's why I don't think Fly would necessarily do it. But for this game, if it was the grand final, I probably wouldn't be playing Billy Frampton because I don't know. I'm assuming Billy Frampton will start on Charlie Curnow and Darcy Moore will revert back to that intercepting role. But I actually really liked what Darcy Moore did on Sam Darcy. He had some wins, had some losses, but he did that against the best, in my opinion, the best forward that will be this year in the AFL in Sam Darcy. Ramesh also mentions, I don't think we really need Darcy Moore to be freed up with all our weapons down back. That's what I'm saying. I thought I liked what I saw with the likes of Darcy Moore playing 1-on-1, and I would have liked to see us persist with that more. Maybe we'll still see that at times tomorrow, but if there's only one key tall, and Charlie Curnow is 6'3", 6'4", he's not super tall, but he jumps like a gazelle. So he does present as a tall, that's for sure, and his 1-on-1 works really good. Hopefully we can get that right. I mean, you've already got Jeremy Howe there, you've already got Braden Maynard there. Yeah, I'm not too sure. It doesn't look like Nick Dacos will get a genuine tagging role with someone, especially with Matt Cottrell out there. What are you guys saying in the chat? Let's see. D says the gap between Carlton's best and worst players are huge, especially compared to our team. And that's look, we're not betting on that, but the sample size is right now pointing to the fact that Carlton do not have a sustainable game style for 4 quarters. Let's make them feel that tomorrow. Let's stem the bleeding initially. You know they're going to come out with fire under their shoes and they're going to have the biggest crack in arguably it's probably going to be the biggest game of their year because they need to win it. If they don't win, then they can pretty much wrap it up and call it a day and sack Vossi in a press, as Mick was alluding to before. Mick, I see you in the video chat. I'm actually going to go, bro. I've got soccer training. I'm so sorry. I know you've been waiting here for a couple minutes, but I'll see you at the post-game show, okay? Done. All right, good man. Sorry, Mick. I'm sorry, guys. I would love to stay longer, but I've got soccer training, so I'll leave you guys with that, and we'll see you tomorrow. Go Pies.